Hey guys, I'm Tim.
I'm Spencer.
Welcome to the Board Game Rundown. Today we are going to give you a review of Barrage. So Barrage is made by Cranio Creations. It plays from 1 to 4 players, and it is one of the newer, heavier worker placement games out there right now. We got an opportunity to play it together, and so we're going to give you some of our first impressions, tell you a little bit what we think, break it down into a few categories, so that way you can see if this is something you want to go out and maybe get for yourself. Overall gameplay, Barrage, you're trying to build dams and power stations and conduits as water comes trickling down through here and catches in the dams, and then you pull them in through and you generate energy. Basically is the economy of the game, right? Like that is a very brief summation
Yes.
of how that works, but
Yeah, you're placing workers to do your various actions, and you have places for your own workers to go on your own player map. Every player has their own unique abilities, and that's where it really changes things up.
yeah, so asymmetrical factions
Yes.
with the addition of a random executive officer that you can have would really change maybe how you play the game.
Yeah, and the executive actions being random means unless you've played this game for so many times, you're always going to get a different one.
And there's tons of them. There's
tons of them.
the whole stack of these guys in the box. There's a bunch, and they're really awesome. So, without giving too much away what we think, the first category that I like to go by is accessibility. So, how hard is this game to get, and how hard is it to teach? So, for me, I gave it a 4 out of 5. It's relatively easy to find. It's hitting game stores now, so it's out there. You just got to find it. Ask your game store owner. If they don't have it, they can get it probably pretty easily. As far as teaching goes, this is a heavier worker placement game, so I give it a 4 out of 5. But I think it's kind of deceptively easy to teach because you've just got so many actions that you can take, and they're pretty simple. There's not a ton of them, and then you just assign your workers and you do the thing. Now, the real chemistry is trying to figure out how to make those actions the most efficient and most productive and best actions that you can take. But really, it's pretty much like when you're teaching people, you put your guy here and you get this. And then the next player goes.
Yeah, it goes pretty quickly.
So for me, it's a 4 out of 5 on accessibility. It's not that hard to find, and it's not super hard to teach. We learned relatively quick when we were playing. There was a few things we had goofed, and we kind of went back and replayed the first turn.
But if we had someone who'd played the game,
Oh, it would have been a breeze.
there would have been no problems.
And it didn't take as long as I thought it would either.
No.
I thought it would take a little longer. Now, granted, we were only playing with 2-player. If you're playing this with someone who's got like analysis paralysis, it could take a long time. I would just prod them to to go. But for me, accessibility, I gave a 4 out of 5. Is there anything, you have any specific thoughts or anything on that?
I would give it a 4 out of 5 for most people, but if you are a heavy Eurogamer, I give this a 5 out of 5
Right.
because it's mostly intuitive. The one mechanic that I found was refreshing, what we messed up at first, is that little track over there. When you pay for something, it's not a permanent payment. It goes along this little track, and once it gets back to the beginning, you get all your money back. So it's a temporary payment.
So, and where we thought we were confused that you didn't get your building until they exited your wheel, and I'll get into that in gameplay, but we were waiting way too long to
Yes.
to get our stuff. And so it was really simple. We just went back to we just reset everything. It was the first round still,
Yeah.
and we just started over. Components wise. So components, there's only one thing I don't love about the components, but it is not enough for me to drop it from a 5. For me, it is a 5 out of 5. I love these sculpted wooden bits.
Yeah.
I love the gloss that's on the board. The artwork is fantastic. The theme is very heavy and present. I love these wheels.
Yes, I love
These
the
wheels
too.
it's such a neat mechanic, right?
Yeah, I love the mechanic.
But these tiny, tiny, tiny little bits are a little problematic. They're really cool little shaped they're not even meeples, right? Just shaped wooden bits to represent either excavators or concrete mixers. But it is not enough for me to go, nope, like I got to give this a 3 or a 4. And also, it's got some really great, like, heavy player aids that kind of walk through everything. And the rule book has a nice reference sheet on the back so you can see what all the icons mean. So components wise, I mean, they really did a solid job. I understand why these are small so that they can fit in your wheel, but I don't love it. But it's not enough to hurt it for me too much.
I actually like the smaller components, but I just think they're cute. I'm stuck between a 4 and a 5. Every faction gets their own unique pieces, and they're not always intuitive, so unless you know what everyone's piece looks like, you can sometimes get a little confused. But
because the power stations all look different, the dams are all a little different,
yeah,
differently shaped.
And
the conduits are all the same.
The conduits are all the same, so it's not a big hit. I don't think it's they're stellar pieces, but I do love the pieces. They're great pieces.
They're great quality, like wood components.
The wood and the paint job, it's all nice.
And the colors are a little unique, right? So
yes, they're all unique. They say it's red, but really it's hot pink.
Right.
This is more teal than anything else.
And there's black and white. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. Oh, and don't forget dual layered player boards.
That's true. I loved those dual layered
Fantastic.
player boards. Maybe I'm leaning more toward a 5.
I mean, if you were to change your mind, it doesn't hurt my feelings. But
And
there's
also,
a lot of really good stuff.
And also, I particularly like Art Deco, and some of the artwork is very Art Deco, and so that's a nice boost for me.
Again, it's 1920s. You're generating hydroelectric power.
Yeah, I think the idea is you're working with or for Tesla.
Right, and everybody's kind of competing. So you're like these energy barons, but instead of like coal or oil, you're dealing
We're
specifically
environmentally
with...
friendly.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Gameplay. Gameplay for me it's a 5 out of 5. I really do like some heavy Euros, but they kind of got to be the right heavy Euro. And for me, this is the right heavy Euro. The gameplay is, like you said, intuitive. It's very simple. And while there's a ton of complexity, right? But your choice of your actions, there's not so many that it should take you forever. There is a little bit of maybe you took a space I wanted to take, so I might have to commit to a more expensive space. But it's not too hard. I had a lot of fun playing it. I got my butt kicked, but I kept thinking about this game all week. Like I really want to play it again. I can do better. And I love this wheel. I love the mechanic of the wheel. I love the way that you generate income as you build more structures. There's just a lot to this game that I really like.
Yeah. I also give this one a 5 out of 5. I loved it. And I think for me, the best part was, as I analyzed the game afterwards, like you did, I was thinking about the special effect of every one of the factions and how that changes how you want to play the game. I played as the German over here, and he really wants to have these things in a row so you can capitalize on his special ability, which lets you move and use power twice. And you were playing the Americans. And the Americans will gain power with water passing through.
Cascading through their power stations.
And so it behooves you to spread out and capture as much water as possible. And so we're trying to get points. We stumble on each other a little bit.
But we were really kind of playing our own games, though, at the same time.
With more players, I see that's going to become...
Oh, the board will get really crowded.
Really crowded. The only drawback I saw is if you really love competition, this game it's indirect competition. You know, it is, I've taken that spot and you really wanted it. But even over here, with all of the jobs, you have enough jobs that we weren't really in competition for the jobs. They were not
says
premium.
you killed me.
Oh, well, I did kill you.
You kept going. Well, no, I guess I kept going first, so I was making really bad decisions. But that's fine. That's fine.
You should have stopped me.
I should have. But the gameplay is really neat. There's a couple of different phases. One of the phases I love is the water phase.
Yeah.
When the water then cascades down through the different basins, and then eventually we'll catch at a dam, or maybe overflow and then continue to move down. You're drawing, you can change the location of where things are, because if you draw water through this conduit to this power station, then it comes here. Well, now it comes to rest here, so that water can be used again in a future turn by a future player, so on and so forth. And you can really set up some awesome combinations.
And you can even figure out how to steal water from someone else if it's trapped behind a dam and you know they're going to pump it through their station. You can build a conduit and pump it away from their station.
Or you can even pay to use somebody's existing conduit to bring it into your power station.
Yes.
So there's a lot of really neat things and combinations set up for this. So for me, moving on, I guess it's a 5 out of 5 on gameplay.
Yep.
I love it. Value wise, as far as I know, MSRP is great. There's a lot. It's a little on the higher end, but there's a lot of stuff in the box. There's a ton of components for each faction. There is a solo mode, which is really nice. The bits, the wooden bits, are all really nice. The tiles that you use.
Yep.
The board is beautiful. I love the artwork. There's a ton of variety. I think that the value for a relatively new game, the value of this is very good. I'm really excited to have this. I'm definitely going to hold on to this and keep this game because it is a ton of fun, and I'm kind of obsessed with it right now. So for me, the value is a 5 out of 5.
I gave it a 5 out of 5. I like to rate it more on how often does it want to hit the table, what's the replayability.
Sure.
And for me, I think this one has a lot of replayability. Not only do you have this board with so many options, you have different goals that you can go for, and that will change what you do. And everyone has their own powers, and you have your own little executive power, which
Right.
is random. So it's going to be a fresh game every time.
When we play this at your game night, it's going to...
that's
people are going to go
great.
nuts.
It's going to be
We
great.
just the only bad thing is that sometimes we have more than 4 people,
Yes.
and so that you're going to be capped at 4 people unless you were maybe a Kickstarter backer, and I believe there's an extra player for the Kickstarter. We were not. I've got it right now. I don't feel like I've got to run out and get the Kickstarter stuff, but I really do love this right now. And should the expansion cross my path, I probably will end up getting it.
That'd be great.
Because I feel like this game's got a ton of stuff. So I cut you off before you were going to say something.
Oh, I was going to say, you also have, well, everyone has their own powers that you can use to build things, but you can add new ones throughout the game, which everyone can purchase, and they add a nice twist as well.
Right, and they're going to be different. They're randomized every game, so you're going to see different things. People might buy stuff just to keep it away, which is what I did, and it didn't work, but that's fine. I still had an awesome time playing. But yeah, and that's a good way to look at it too, right? Value. How much are you going to get this played? Even though this is like on the heavier side, I could get my wife to play this game.
I could get my wife to play this game
It's
too.
pretty, because it's not so complex that like I just don't understand what's going on. Like I think like it eases you into enough that I think she would really have a good time with it. And she's not a heavy gamer by any means, but like sometimes like she really likes Euphoria, and Euphoria is kind of a heavier game. So you can, if the theme is right and the gameplay is intuitive, like there's a accessibility level, right, for more casual gamers.
Yeah.
So value 5 out of 5. You gave it a 5 out of
5 out
5.
of 5.
Now, who is this for in player interaction? So you already talked a little bit about it. I wouldn't say that it is a solitaire game by any means, because you really have to be aware of where other people are building on the board. So the player interaction, while we may not be in direct conflict, there is sort of like, I believe you even said it, the indirect conflict, right? And sort of passive things going on. But there's enough player interaction that I'm fine. I don't mind necessarily if a game is a solo game, as long as it plays really well and is fun. But there's people that hate that. I think there's enough here that will scratch that itch for other people that they don't like just sitting there and playing Euro Solitaire. So it's a heavier game. I give it a 4 out of 5 overall, because if you're playing with people that don't take turns like relatively quickly, I could see this game going on too long.
Yes.
And that it would be a negative. But I am not shy about going, hey man, come on, like just take a turn. Like, let's go. And people that game with me know that, so it's not like I'm just rude to strangers. I try to I try to be diplomatic about it. But so it can suffer from that if people are a little worried about getting stuck in a longer game. But you could also limit that by either player count or who you play with, because you know who those gamers are in your group. So, and if you don't, it's you, right? That's the rule. If you don't know who it is, then it's you. So how do you feel? How do you feel about like who is this for in player interaction?
Well, I would definitely not say this is for the casual gamer, but anything more than the casual gamer, I think you could get into it. My wife would
Absolutely.
definitely play this.
Yeah.
However, I think for some people, the not competitive spirit can be a problem. We do have the indirect, but there's so many options. Unless you're really cutthroat,
Right.
then it's not going to be as competitive as some people want, which for other people is a good thing.
There's no real like leader bashing or ganging up on somebody that's a runaway leader.
It'd be hard.
And there's really no catch-up mechanic though either.
There was a little bit of a catch-up mechanic, wasn't there? With this track, if you produce the least amount of energy,
you get to go
first. It's a little bit of a catch-up.
It didn't help me catch up that much.
No.
But and I don't think it's so punishing that if you have like a bad round that you're totally done. We need to play more maybe to see if that is the case, but I think you can sort of have like a not optimal turn and still be pretty viable as a potential winner. Because some games, like Agricola, right? If you have a bad round or a bad turn, you're done. You're like, I might as well just wipe the table off and start all over. But, so yeah, I give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I think I'll also give it a 4 out of 5.
And then overall, like final thoughts on this game, Barrage is a 5 out of 5. I kind of came out of nowhere for me. I didn't see it on Kickstarter. I missed it. But I'm going to be looking at Cranio Creations games now moving forward because this is really neat. The theme is really neat. I really like the components. I like the way the game plays. I love the wheel, the production wheel, with the way that all of that works. I love the way that when you build items, it unlocks income and different things
it
potentially.
reminded me of Scythe.
Right. And it's just, and that's a good thing. I like Scythe. So there's a lot of replayability. I'm really excited about Barrage. I'm going to be making people play it. Like, guys, let's try Barrage. I think you'll like it. And I think our game group that
They will love it.
It's going to be a hit. The only restriction will be the player count. Because sometimes we've got 6 people. And I mean, there's not a ton of like really heavy games you want to play with 6 people anyways. But that's where I come down. It's still a 5 out of 5. I love it.
I think I give it a 4 out of 5. Personally, it's a 5 out of 5. But I think just because enough people are casual gamers and this is relatively heavy, that I would have to be with my game group or something. I'm not going to be able to just invite some friends over and pull this out. At least not at first.
You're not playing this with my in-laws who are like party gamers.
Yeah.
Like I would not be playing this with them.
But other than that, I mean, I love this game.
But anybody a step beyond, right? Just a little bit further.
A little bit further.
And if you're even just kind of like curious about a heavier Euro, worker placement style game, man, this is, I would say, is a pretty good entry point.
You think so?
Because like the rules are intuitive enough. And there's so many interesting decisions that you can make. So it's not so intimidating to get in, but I think you're going to find a lot of satisfaction playing this over and over again.
Yeah.
But that's me maybe. But yeah, I think that this would be a good gateway game if you're curious about the heavier ones. So you already kind of have to be in. But I wouldn't go because I wouldn't tell somebody that just likes Ticket to Ride or Catan to then go play Caverna or Agricola or something like that. I feel like that might, make their heads explode. But I think that you could, if somebody would really like those, you could bring them a step further in this way.
Yeah, I think this is a step along the way.
But because it's not so hard to learn. It's not so hard to teach. I mean, we knew basically nothing, pulled it out of the box and learned it. And played a game relatively quickly.
The first time I saw this was when we unboxed it.
Right.
And I was impressed then, and I stayed impressed throughout it. So I liked it.
So, yeah, It's Barrage, man. It's really good. I hope you guys like it. I hope we've helped you make a decision, maybe influenced your feelings a little bit. But I've been Tim.
I'm Spencer.
Have a great day. Thanks for watching Board Game Rundown. If you liked what you saw,
Give us a thumbs up.
Hit subscribe.
and definitely ring that bell.